Kellen, I got a three-parter on the
Starting with three. All right, here we go.
on Fred and Tyler.
Yeah.
First of all, the Saints threw a lot of stunts at those guys, and even though Fred mainly plays left tackle on second team, and Tyler, of course, right guard, they haven't gotten a lot of reps together. How are they able to pick those up so effectively? Part one. Part two. Tyler and Mekhi both. You run those plays where they pull to sell the play action and then set up like as an offensive tackle. In your experience, can most guards not do that, but they can because they have the tackle background? And then also, three.
You guys got to help me with these.
You can circle back with me.
Just kidding.
How do you think Fred and Tyler both played?
Yeah, so start with the last one because I think those guys played phenomenal. I think this was a huge example of next man up game in many positions. Certainly with the offensive line, those guys did a phenomenal job. Fred, Tyler, like popping in there and just playing ball. And at times, you play these situations out, and you never know when your number's going to be called. And to hop in there and in Fred's case, maybe play right tackle where he's played left on the one rep he got in practice, and now he's on the right side. And those guys did a phenomenal job. That front was going to be a really challenging front for us, especially from a protection standpoint. They do a lot of movement, a lot of games. They create a lot of stress and challenges, and for those guys to communicate at that high of a level with that limited amount of exposure together was a really, really cool example of how much time and effort those guys put into the film room, all those different things, and it all adds up. And so those guys did a nice job. Like you're saying, the gap schemes, when you pull guys in and you're selling a run with the ability to pass, obviously it's a different launch point for the quarterback in many ways. And so those guys have to have an excellent feel of anticipating where the rusher is going to be, being able to adjust, just because different than when you're stationary and you snap the football, the edge rusher is usually right close proximity. You got to be able to navigate that, and so those guys did a nice job of it. Gave us really clean pockets, allowed us to use some of those actions to get the ball downfield.
And then also just how did Fred and Tyler work so well together despite the lack of playing next to each other in practice?
Yeah, I think obviously what Stout does a great job is these guys are constantly rotating throughout practice, whether it be on the scout team, whether it be on the first team, because not every guy's going to get every single rep, and so they're constantly rotating, spending time around each other, because like all of our guys, we don't know how these lineups are going to play out. Sometimes you have to make those different adjustments. Different positions you may need to play multiple positions, and so they're constantly rotating to put themselves in ready position for those.
When Nick comes to you and says he wants to call a play like he did on that 4th and 1, how does that happen?
Oh, I think it's just a collaborative aspect of this thing. I think from an offensive staff perspective, and really from a staff perspective in general, we're constantly talking about all these different scenarios. When can we call a particular play? Short yardage plays, we'll have a number of them, and it's a matter of us teaming up on when's the right time to call a particular one. And so, those are constant conversations. Stout's heavily involved in the run game. Guys in the box, you trust their eyes on certain looks when you're using tempo and you're trying to identify a defensive look. I think it's a big team effort. And obviously, in those situations, obviously we've talked a lot about them. When can we make this decision to go for it? And sometimes Nick's going to be a part of that. Sometimes Stout's going to be a part of that. It's really a collaborative effort.
But if I could follow up, though, but like Nick has final say because he's the head coach. Stout doesn't, so the hierarchy is different there. How does it change when you do get the information versus when you get it from Stout or Jason Michaels or whoever else?
I think no different than any place I've ever been. Obviously, we're all teaming up on this thing, and we're trying to get the calls in as fast as possible, and at the same time playing situational football and making decisions at a critical time very quickly. And so we all lean on each other. I think we have an excellent process here. It's been a really fun process just because of how much work we put into it during the week to prepare ourselves for those situations.
Kellen, there's a key moment when it comes to a key moment in a game. Obviously, Sirianni being the head coach, if you have a play, how much do you feel you have to push if you feel the play should go a certain way?
We spent a lot of time during the week talking through every possible scenario. Again, similar like short yards, for example. I mean, you're going to carry a number of plays, and it's just a matter of what's the right time to call that one. And usually we're bouncing ideas off each other throughout the game, not just those situations, but first and second down. I think we have a really fun collaborative group on our offensive staff, and Nick's certainly a part of that heavily. And so what it allows us to do is really team up on all these different situations, talk through the possible outcomes, and make the best decision possible.
Kellen, possibility that you'll be without your top 3 wide receivers Sunday, without knowing exactly where those guys are. But You just talk about where Paris is, where Jahan is, Johnny, and what you have there at that spot.
Yeah, excellent job. Again, a really cool example of guys being able to play adjustment football. Those guys, ran around. They probably ran a few plays that they really have never ran necessarily, other than watching other guys run them in a number of weeks. And so for them to be able to hop in there and play those adjustments and line up in the different positions that they probably didn't anticipate lining up in, and being able to execute those plays towards the end, Jahan, handling some of those mesh plays really, really well and doing a great job with those. Like, that's an awesome example. That was Smitty earlier in the game. Now all of a sudden Jahan's in there and he's able to execute at a really high level. And so, we feel really confident and comfortable with those guys, especially, you give them a few extra days and they can kind of continue to develop and handle all the different adjustments through a game plan. And so we feel very fortunate to have those guys.
That long play to Dallas, what made that the right time to call that? And then you mentioned the mesh aspect of it. What's the coaching point for Jahan going into that to make sure he doesn't draw the penalty?
Yeah, obviously, the critical aspect of it is still a route. Obviously, we're not going to truly create a rub. You're going to run a route and create a little bit of traffic the best you can, and ultimately it's about trying to put stress the defenders in so many ways and force those guys to communicate at a really high level. And ultimately, that's the challenge of those guys when they're man to man. They got to play it perfectly. And so by Jahan run his route and creating a little bit of a movement, force those guys to be in the same lane and create traffic and run into each other. And so, it's a great example of just the time that he put into it through the week to prepare and run that play.
Kellen, to follow up on Rube's question there about the receiving core, how challenging is it to game plan with guys that, are a little further down the depth chart in a short period of time?
No, you just understand circumstances as far as, who may or may not be available for a game. And so I think what Aaron does an excellent job with that group is, we have certainly a foundation of how we anticipate the game going with the players, but they really have to have a great understanding of the big picture of the concepts and understand that they may have to make an adjustment based off who's available during the game. And so, it's a big picture group. It's a really special group. For us to have guys like Paris who can hop in here, have played a ton of football. Jahan's played a ton of football. Johnny, we're so fired up to have. And so for those guys to hop in there and just play ball, we feel really confident and comfortable with them.
Kellen, you talked before the season about how important it was going to be to sort out pressure looks. You expect the teams to throw a lot at you. I guess, how do you feel like you've been in that area, and how important is that going against a Todd Bowles defense?
Yeah, it's always one of the biggest challenges each and every week in the NFL is, these pressure plans are really, really challenging, really hard, and then you put the players on top of it, and it can be a challenge. And so, we're constantly trying to make the adjustments each and every week. Each week you're going to use different tools in your toolbox. I think our guys have done a really nice job the first few weeks as far as by no means perfect, but, utilizing different tools, handling those different things, and we'll continue to evolve. Obviously, this one will be a really big challenge. Todd is one of the best in this league at bringing pressures, stressing your protections, trying to break your rules. And so, it's going to be a fun week for us to try and sort this out.
Go ahead.
On the broadcast, Greg Olsen kept saying that the game plan was to force Jalen Hurts to his left. What does Jalen Hurts need to do to be as effective to his left as you want him to be?
Yeah, no, obviously any quarterback that, your right hand, you're naturally going to roll out at times when you get off schedule to your right. And so Jalen's done a phenomenal job of just continuing to build confidence and build comfort level in that. And so, I thought he had a few good examples. Again, this is a couple weeks in a row where, not getting out of the pocket, hanging in the pocket within time. And when he has to scramble, he scrambles. And he found Kenny on one down the left sideline. He found Smitty on the left side, both good examples. He got into a scramble drill to his left, found a completion, and still remained a passer. Those are big time plays.
I'm sorry. Well, why did you guys decide to go with the variation of the tush push on that 4th and 1, and why didn't it work?
Yeah, obviously we certainly feel really good about the quarterback sneak, and there's a few plays off of it that we obviously feel like we can build a package, and so ultimately did not work, didn't execute it in the right situation, and so that's on us, that's on me to try and put ourselves in the best situation in those circumstances, and those things unfortunately happen.
On the interception, what's kind of the teaching point on both ends? On both ends of that.
Yeah, really challenging situation there. Obviously we're trying to throw a in-breaker across the safety's face. Obviously in a perfect world, you cross the safety's face and make a play there. I thought the DB made an excellent play. Kind of taking a chance on that thing and jumping that. We were really close. The week before against Atlanta, he throws one and we score a touchdown on it. And so there's an element of confidence in that and trust. And so, it's something we just got to keep growing and building on.
To return to the play calling dynamic with Nick, you said it's no different than where you've ever been. The collaborative nature, was that your understanding coming in, or did y'all spend much time during the hiring process talking about that?
Oh yeah, no. This has been our goal and our process through this whole thing, and so I think it's awesome. I think we have a really, really good group. We're able to team up on this thing, invest a lot of time. Not losing any of the things that's been in place that we can continue to build off of and continue to evolve and utilize different tools that whether they came from my past or anyone else's past, continue to evolve from an offense perspective.
When you were
Crucial
watching
plays
Two
that-
more?
when you were watching the game, the playoff game from last year in preparation for this week, the Bucs-Eagles game, what jumped out to you?
Yeah, obviously they had a pressure plan associated with stopping the run and putting a lot of stress on the protection game, and so Todd's always going to have his different flavors. He's going to play us. There may be some stuff that falls back on that. There may be some new components that he'll pull out and try and stress you in many different ways because he knows you'll be anticipating those. And so he does an excellent job. When I was at other places, we've played him multiple times, and every week, every game seems to be a different flavor. It's not necessarily whether he won or lost. It's going to be a different flavor and it's going to be a different challenge each and every week. So we got to do a good job of having our answers and understand our tools and the adjustments that we may or may not need to make.
Kellen, you don't
Crucial
see many
plays that could
65.
put points, crucial plays that could put points on the board or take points off the board or into possession or continue one. In a collaborative process, how do you feel you're evaluated for offensive parts of the game?
As far as, ultimately, I think in those situations, from my standpoint, my focus is trying to give us the best possible play call to execute in those situations. And so, ultimately, we've had a couple the last few weeks where these fourth down situations we have not converted. We went 1 for 3, I believe, in this past game. And so, one of them works, 2 of them don't. You don't feel very good about the 2 that don't convert. And so you're constantly reevaluating how can I put us in the best possible situation to be successful in those plays.
Kellen, you don't see many 65-yard touchdown runs, obviously, in the NFL. What were some of the keys that led to that?
Yeah, obviously up front, phenomenal job. There's some movement. The guys able to work in combination and get to the second level. I thought Dallas on the back end cut one of the defense linemen off, gave us a chance, and then obviously once Saquon got to the second level and burst, it was pretty remarkable to see him run away from people.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.